Chapter 1. The lab at Jupiter Cognitive Networks was never meant to feel human. It was steel and glass, polished surfaces, and air so cold it stung the fingertips. Yet as midnight crept over Palo Alto, the buzzing of servers and the faint pulse of blue light made it feel alive, like a machine holding its breath. It was a place that gave the future a shape. Alexander Varen stood with his hands on the edge of a clear console, watching the last run on the monitor. The code glittered in soft lines. 12 years of research, 2 failed patents, years of failed experiments, and 1 sleepless decade had brought him to this moment, the final test of something that, if it worked, would change the world. He typed the final command. The cryogenic core in the center of the room, a cylinder of glass and white metal, adjusted its cooling cycles, and the ring of quantum processors inside faintly pulsed. On the screen, these words came into being. Lumiere Q phase, active. The last phase of his project, the culmination of more than a decade's work, was finally ready for activation. The cylindrical chamber in front of him stood at the center of the room like a monument, a transparent shell filled with silver coils and strands of fiber optics, all converging toward a single suspended lattice at its core. Within that lattice shimmered Lumiere, the world's first quantum, entangled data network capable of storing and transferring information without leaving a digital trace. At his shoulder, Dr. Arian Paddle appeared carrying 1 warm cup of coffee, steaming and dark, and the mint tea in the other, its fresh scent filling the room with an expression that had become familiar over the long nights. Arian pulled off his glasses and rested his elbows on the console. "Coffee for me," Arian said, setting it down, "and your Moroccan tea exactly how you like it." Alexander nodded gratefully, barely looking up from his screen but already reaching for the warm cup. "Moment of truth," he asked, quietly enough that the processors might not hear. "How close are we?" "Final integration test," Alexander said. "Once this run completes, Lumiere's distributed lattice should self-verify. After that, she'll be the first system that can move classified, level data through quantum nodes without leaving metadata trails." Arian blinked, impressed but cautious. "Meaning no timestamps, no transmission routes, no packet signatures?" "Exactly," Alexander said. "Every bit of information she moves is broken into quantum states and scattered across nodes. The data only exists in entangled correlation, not as readable chunks. Even if someone intercepts it, they'll get pure statistical noise." Arian sipped his coffee, eyes still on the screen. "That makes her a ghost." "You're aware of what that means, right? You've just created the first communication protocol that no government on Earth can trace." Alexander shook slowly. "That's the point. Every nation claims to protect privacy until it becomes inconvenient. I wanted to build something incorruptible, or uncontrollable," Arian countered. "Same thing depending on who you ask." Alexander smiled a little. "You always said the perfect system was one that scares everyone equally." "That was a joke," Arian muttered. They both turned back to the console. A progress bar glowed along the bottom of the screen, 92, 93, 94. Lines of encrypted code glittered through the air in holographic layers, feeding into the central lattice. The chamber gave a soft pulse of light as if breathing. Arian gestured at the readings. "What's the new structure here, this recursive loop?" Alexander leaned forward. "That's the entanglement controller. It keys every node at random intervals using entropy derived from cosmic radiation readings. No need of any external input or manual reset. Every second the topology of Lumiere changes. There's no static network map, no way to trace where information flows or where it ends up." "So you're telling me," Arian said, "that even we won't be able to track it?" "Not once it's active," Alexander admitted. "Once she deploys into the mesh, she'll live across thousands of distributed quantum clusters. Each one will carry fragments of logic, not data. Even if the system's compromised, the fragments mean nothing in isolation." Arian frowned. "That's brilliant and suicidal at the same time." Alexander shrugged. "It's freedom. Pure communication beyond censorship, beyond surveillance. Imagine humanitarian groups or whistle-blowers being able to move the truth safely." "And imagine criminal networks doing the same," Arian shot back. You can't open that door halfway, Alex. The air between them felt heavier than the cold hum of the lab. Then the console beeped, the progress bar hit 100. The chamber brightened with a sudden, soft burst of golden light, 1,000 threads of energy weaving through the transparent walls like liquid fire. Alexander watched the numbers cascade across the screen. "It's done," he whispered. "Verification complete, entanglement secure, data correlation successful," Arian exhaled. "So this is it, you just built the cleanest data vault in human history, a system that can hide anything, ideas, money, people forever." Alexandra's voice was quiet, almost reverent. "I would prefer saying protect, yeah." Arian stared at him, jaw tightening. "You know they'll come for this, right? Intelligence, defense, private contractors, everyone. Nobody wants ungovernable technology, and once they realize it lives in your head." "They'll want me too," Alexander finished. "I know." They stood in silence, watching Lumiere's faint glow turning into a soft heartbeat inside the chamber. Arian placed his coffee down. "So what now?" "Now," Alexander said, closing the terminal, "we lock her. No backups, no documentation outside this lab. If anyone asks, Lumiere was a failed prototype, and if they don't believe that," Arian asked, "then they'll have to find her," Alexander replied, turning off the display. "And Lumiere doesn't like to be found." The night was already fading by the time Alexander turned onto his street. The houses sat neatly under the glow of smart streetlights, their facades bright with the dim pulse of home security sensors. His own home, a modest modern box of wood and glass, looked still, except for a faint shimmer of light spilling from the living room window. Inside, the air was warm and smelled faintly of cocoa and solder, the signature scent of Max's endless experiments. Alexander didn't bother switching on the hallway light, he knew the way by heart. "Max," he called softly. A muffled clank answered him, then, "Wait, don't move, Falcon's Landing." He was surprised to see Lucy, the babysitter, still sitting quietly in the living room. Today had stretched far longer than he planned. He gave her an apologetic nod, and she returned it with an understanding smile. "I'm sorry, Lucy, it took more time than I expected," he said softly. "Take tomorrow off, I want to spend the day with Max myself." Lucy stood, gathering her things. "Of course, Mr. Alexander, and don't worry, he already ate his dinner." He was in a good mood tonight. Alexander smiled and leaned against the doorway. The living room was a field of imagination. Wires, drone parts, open tool, kit, and snack wrappers scattered across the rug. At the center sat Max, cross-legged in pajamas patterned with rockets, holding a tiny controller like it was a detonator. A small drone, roughly the size of a lunchbox, buzzed weakly above the table before crashing into a pillow. Max groaned. "Ugh, again," Alexander laughed, walking in. "You've been at this for hours now, haven't you?" "Just making adjustments," Max said, squinting at the broken rotor. "I almost had a clean flight." "You almost had a hole in the wall," Alexander teased, setting down his bag. Max grinned. "It's all about testing limits." Alexander knelt beside him. "That's exactly what engineers say before something explodes." The boy giggled, then tilted his head, studying his father's face. "You look tired." Alexander nodded, smiling. "A good kind of tired. We finished something important tonight." Max's eyes brightened. "Is it the project you've been working on forever?" "Yes." "The one with the weird glass machine?" "The same." Alexander leaned against the couch, rubbing his neck. "We got it working tonight. The system's stable." Max looked at him with the intensity of someone trying to understand the weight of grown-up things. "What does it do?" "It helps people move information safely," Alexander said slowly. "You know how messages or photos can get stolen online?" Max jiggled. "Like when someone hacks your account." "Exactly. What we made is a way for people to send things, messages, data, ideas that no one can steal or even see. It travels like light, here one moment and gone the next. Only the person meant to receive it can make sense of it." Max frowned thoughtfully. "So, it's invisible?" Alexander smiled. "Invisible but real. Like sunlight, you can't hold it, but you can feel what it does. Is that why you called it Lumiere?" Alexander was caught off guard. Max grinned. "You said you didn't have a name for it, remember? And I said you should name it Lumiere because light goes everywhere." Alexandra's eyes softened. "You remember that?" You said it was too poetic, Max teased. I did, Alexander admitted, and then I realized you were right. Lumiere isn't just data, it's something that travels freely beyond walls, beyond limits, exactly like light. Max's expression turned proud, almost shy, so I helped a little. You helped more than you think. Alexander tousled his hair. You inspired it. Max leaned into him, smiling. Then we're partners. Partners, Alexander said, shaking his hand. For a while they stayed like that, sitting among scattered tools and parts. The house was quiet except for the faint ticking of the thermostat. This quietness felt safe, a pocket of peace that belonged only to them. Max broke the silence first. Papa, can Lumiere make people good? Alexander turned his head. Good. Yeah, if she knows so much, can she tell people not to do bad things? The question hung there, pure and disarming. No, Alexander said softly. Machines can't decide what's right or wrong, they can only show us choices. People have to be the ones to choose what's good. Max bowed slowly. So if bad people use it, that's not Lumiere's fault. That's right, Alexander said. It's mine for trusting the wrong hands. He hadn't meant to say it out loud, but it came out heavy and honest. Max dipped, processing it with that rare kind of childlike seriousness that looked older than his years. After a few moments, he yawned. So Lumiere's alive now. Not alive, Alexander said, just awake. Then she's dreaming, Max murmured, already half asleep against his shoulder. Alexander chuckled softly. Maybe she is. He carried Max to his room, stepping carefully over the trail of wires and drone parts. The boy's room was a collage of galaxies glow in the dark, stars on the ceiling, space posters on the wall, and a small telescope pointed out the window. He laid him on the bed and pulled the blanket over him. Max stirred. Papa. When Lumiere grows bigger, promise she won't take you away from me. Alexander froze, his heart tightening in his chest. He knelt beside the bed. Hey, he said softly, brushing a strand of hair from Max's forehead. Nothing can take me away from you, not Lumiere, not work, not anything. Max nodded, eyes heavy. Promise. I promise. The boy smiled and drifted off, his breathing deep and even. Alexander sat there for a while, watching the small rise and fall of his chest, the soft twitch of fingers against the blanket. Then he quietly stood and stepped into the hallway. His phone buzzed just as he reached the living room. It was from Layla, just checking if Max is all right. That was strange. She hadn't texted him in weeks like that. He typed back a quick message telling her Max was fine, asleep, tired after their little project. Her reply came within seconds. Couldn't sleep, been thinking about him. About you too, he frowned at that. The tone wasn't hers. Layla wasn't sentimental, especially not over text, and she hated conversations at night. He stared at the screen, reread it, trying to place what exactly felt wrong. The phrasing, the punctuation, the tone. Their relationship had settled into polite distance. It was just school updates, custody schedules, the occasional exchange about Max's grades. She cared for their son deeply, but she never showed it like that. He asked if everything was all right. No answer. He waited. Another message arrived a minute later. Just wanted to make sure you're both okay. He stared at it longer than he meant to. He put the phone down and rubbed his eyes. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe she was being decent. But his instincts, trained by years of dealing with digital ghosts and breached protocols, didn't buy that. Has he mentioned me lately? That made him sit up a little. Layla was many things, cautious, private, focused, but insecure wasn't one of them. She never asked questions like that. He replied, he always talks about you. Why? Another pause. Just had a weird feeling. He stared at the screen. Weird feeling. The words sounded wrong. Layla didn't believe in intuition. She believed in evidence and plans. He rubbed his thumb over the glass, thinking, had a weird feeling. Weird how scared, guilty, sad. Something about the phrasing clung to him. He asked, everything all right? A long pause this time. Then, yeah, it's nothing. He read that twice. It was affectionate, but in a way that didn't sound like her. She wasn't really a text person. She saved it for real moments when Max was right in front of her. This version of her, texting tenderly, vaguely, at midnight didn't fit. He set the phone down beside him, frowning. His mind, trained to find patterns in code, couldn't stop analyzing tone now. It wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it, as if she were trying to sound like herself. He picked the phone up again, typed, "You sure everything's okay?" 3 dots blinked. He waited. "You always ask too many questions, Alex." The message hit him like a chill. Layla hadn't called him Alex in years, not since before things fell apart. He stared at the screen, the word always pulsing in his mind. He didn't respond, he couldn't. Something about the whole exchange felt like standing too close to an electric fence, invisible but dangerous. He exhaled slowly, forcing logic over fear. Maybe she was just tired, maybe she'd had a drink, maybe she really did just miss their son. But the rationalization rang hollow, even to him. He typed slowly, "You'll take him this weekend, right? Don't worry, he's been looking forward to it." He watched the screen. The typing dots appeared for a moment, then vanished. No reply. He stood, walked to the window, and looked out into the still, empty street. The air was cool, the light from the street lamps soft and yellow. The neighborhood looked too peaceful, like a picture pretending to be still. He turned off the lights and went upstairs.